All right, are you ready to put together your Kawaii Kitty? So we're at the point now where we can sew everything together. Sew on the feet, the ears, the tail, and the embroidery thread. Don't be afraid of the sewing part. A lot of patterns out there say, oh, this is no sew, and they discourage you, but it's actually pretty easy, nothing to be intimidated by. What we need. Of course, we need the body, the 4 feet, 2 ears, and tail. You're going to need pink, white, and black embroidery thread. We're going to need a big yarn needle and a tapestry or embroidery needle. If you have some sewing pins, we can use them. They are not necessary though. Scissors, and hopefully you saved back a little bit of stuffing. We don't need a lot. I usually put a little bit in the feet, but I don't put any in the tail or the ears. All right, we're gonna start with the feet. So go ahead and clear your area. And if you have some sewing pins, they can be useful just to visualize where you're going to be placing the feet. So I just kind of pin them where I think they might go, and I can adjust them as needed. The back feet I like to do a little bit further apart than the front feet. I think it makes it cuter and gives them a cute profile. So when you put the back feet on, if you like, you can make them a little bit wider apart. Now this is how you like it. So you can position them however you want. Okay. Now I want to go ahead and take out 3 of the feet. They will get in the way if you try to just leave them there. And we're going to start with this one. Take that yarn needle and thread it on just like that. Now the first thing I like to do, you see where we finished off, it kind of sticks out. So I like to go ahead and go through the next stitch with my tail, and what it does is just gives it a smoother edge. Okay? Alright, if that is where we like it, what I'm going to do is I want to thread this into the body. Now usually I do this by I go under or into one stitch and out the next one, just like that, okay? And pull it all the way through. Now I go into the foot, and what I'm going to do is just loop it through one of these loops here, the one closest to where I just came out of. Alright, now I try to work just around the foot as close as I can, so you can see the next stitch is about here and coming up right about there. Now these needles, the plastic ones, are pretty flexible, which does help, but if you put too much pressure on them, they will break. Later on, if you want to get a metal one, that might be better. Okay, and then back into the foot. And as I'm going, I check the placement, that the foot is still where I want it to be. I can kind of turn it if it's gotten out of place. Okay, back into the body. So you can kind of see where I'm coming through there. Now into the foot, just like that. I can go ahead and take that pin out. It's pretty well in place. Now once I've gotten about halfway around, I'm gonna take a tiny amount of stuffing. Really, it's just a small amount like that. And I'm gonna push it into that space of the foot. What this does is just gives the feet a little bit of firmness. All right. Making sure it's still in the position I want. Keep working around. And back into the foot. Okay, back into the body. And into the foot. If the stuffing starts to stick out a little bit, you can actually just take the edge of your needle and kind of push it in. Okay, now into the body. Into the foot. Oh, we're almost all the way back around. I'm going to do one more time. Right there. And sometimes that little edge where we had finished kind of sticks out. So if I just stick my needle in there, it'll pull it in. To finish it, we can just kind of stick it through the space between, even into the body. But I don't want to cut it off yet. And the reason is this. Right now, I can still pretty easily undo this. If I decide I don't like where it's placed, I can still undo this. Once I cut it off, it's a little bit harder to undo. So I'm going to leave this tail here until I finish all 4 feet. All right. Now take that next foot and kind of position it where you think you want it. Okay. And then we're going to thread that on. Now remember, because of where we finished and it kind of sticks up, we want to go into that next stitch of the foot to make it a little bit more even. Okay. And then start sewing around. So go into the body. Oh, that first one's a little challenging sometimes. And then into the foot. And I kind of adjust with my hands and fingers as I go to make sure it's staying where I want. Remember, if you make a mistake, you put it starts to go sideways or not where you want, just go ahead and back up, undo that part, and then fix it. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and pause the video while I finish this second foot, and you can go ahead and keep sewing around until you finish it, just like the first one. Okay, we got the front 2 feet on there. Now remember, the next 2 we like to kind of spread out a little bit. So I can go ahead and sort of put both of them on there to see if I like where they go. And remember, I left the tails on the front 2 so far, just in case I decide I don't like where something is positioned. Okay. Let's take the 4th foot off. We'll start with that 3rd foot. Everything's the same as before. Go ahead and put your needle on there. And I'm going to go ahead and loop through the next stitch from the finish on the foot. And then I'm going to start. So first going into the body. And then into the foot. And remember, once I get about halfway through, I'm going to take some of that stuffing and just push it into the foot. If it's a little bit too much, just pull some off. Push it down in. We do want to push it in as much as we can so that it's not sticking out. We're getting in the way too much as we're sewing around, okay? Okay. And kind of position it an equal distance. Okay, I'm going to pause again. Go ahead and sew that 4th foot on, and I'll meet you once it's sewn on. Okay, I've got all 4 legs on. Now the question is, are you happy with where they're placed? Yours doesn't have to look exactly like mine. Every Kawaii Kitty ends up being a little bit different. It looks like these ones, I moved the legs a little bit back farther than I did on the white kitty here. On our cinnamon color kitty, it looks like I have them a little bit closer together. You can kind of see here. So if I'm comparing all of them, you know, everyone is a little bit different. The question really is just, are you happy with where they're placed? Do you think it's kawaii? Do you think it's cute? If so, you can start cutting off your ends. If not, you know, just go back, loosen up the ends, use your needle to kind of stick in there and pull out, and start over. Okay, when we're ready to cut them off, we're going to do similar to when we fastened off with the body. So I have this sticking out here. I'm going to pull it a little bit tight and snip off. Don't snip the body, just the end, and then it pretty much disappears into the body. So go ahead and go around and snip off those ends once you're happy with where the legs are placed. Okay. Great. Now he has some feet. I think right now I'm going to have you go ahead and do the nose. We can go ahead, we could move on to the ears and the tail, but I don't want them to be in the way when I'm doing the nose. So what we're going to need is the pink embroidery thread, and we want this tapestry or embroidery needle, the one that has a sharper end. Okay. Now how much do you need of the pink? We need a little bit more. I would say about maybe 24 inches, just to be sure. You won't actually end up using that much. It just gives us plenty to work with. And go ahead and thread that needle. Okay, now here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go in through the top of his head and leave kind of a tail sticking out, and our goal is to come out right about here. We want to be between the eyes, and we're gonna make the nose right across this space here. So our goal is to end up in this hole right here. So going from the top of his head, sometimes you gotta move the needle around a little bit. This is why the sharp one is better. And I'm going for that space right there. And pull, but leave a little bit of an end, maybe a couple inches. Now the nose is made by repetition. We're going to go back and forth across the same area. You can see here, going back and forth across the same area until it kind of fills in. Now you might want to put your finger here just to make sure that doesn't get pulled through. And I want to go across to about here. When my needle comes out, I want to be pretty close to come out in this same spot. So I'm going to go down here. And I'm going to go across and come up close to where that pink is already coming through. Now it's a good idea to pull slowly, and you can kind of position the embroidery thread as it's getting pulled through with your thumb. Also, don't pull too tightly. All right, now we're going to do the same thing. Keep going back and forth several times. So I'm going to go down close to the same area, come back up close to the same spot. Sometimes it'll get kind of hooked up here. And just pulling through slowly, positioning everything. Okay, that should be, I don't have to worry about this part so much anymore. I'm using my thumb to kind of help it to not be a direct kind of layer like this, okay? I can move a little up, a little down to fill in the space as needed. So I feel like up above needs a little bit more. So I go up a little higher with the needle. Keep squishing his face flat so I can see how the nose is going. Okay. Maybe filling down near the bottom some more. I still want to keep it pretty close together though. The further apart the needle comes up, the more gaps there's going to be in the nose. Now this time as we go down, I'm actually going to come out down here somewhere. So what we're doing is this little cute lip part here, part of the nose. So once you feel like this is filled in good enough, or how you want it, you should go down one more time and then come out down here kind of in the middle. Now you may feel that you need to keep going more than I did, and that's fine. You do it as many times as you feel like you need. And if you make a mistake, you can undo it. I'd have to take the needle off and then just pull up that last stitch. If I pulled up right here, I think that was my last one. I can pull that out and back up if I feel like I made a mistake. Okay, from here, my goal is to come up into the middle of where the nose is. I would even go kind of underneath where I'm at so it's not visible. And I want to come out in the same hole on the top. So I gotta move my needle around a little to make sure I get in the same spot. Okay, so he's got a tiny little nose there. This one has a little bit bigger nose. Everyone is different, as long as you are happy with it. Okay, the top, let me show how you help me this disappear. So I'm gonna leave about 2 inches there. And go ahead and tie this just like that. And let's make that even shorter because we're gonna pull it through is what we're gonna do. Taking your crochet hook, I'm gonna stick it in and I want it to come out in that same hole. Hook over and pull down. Oh, I even pulled it a little bit too much, so I can keep just moving it down until it's no longer showing. Even if it pokes up a little bit like this, like sometimes happens, I just use the end and shove it back in. And it's gone. And it should not pull out. There we go. Okay, let's go ahead and do the eyes next. You'll need the black embroidery thread. And we even need less of this than we did of the pink. So what the black is for is to make our little eyelashes at the top. Okay, we want to do something similar. What I'm going to do here though, I'm going to come from the top and come near the corner of his eye right here. It's okay if you don't come right up into the stitch hole. If you go into some of the yarn, it actually can be beneficial because it'll keep it from bunching awkwardly. Now the important thing with the eyes is we really don't want to pull it tight. So leave yourself a couple inches. And I'm going to go down here on the other side of the eye, and I'm going to come back up through the head, not in the same place as this, but I do want to go up in through one of the holes because we're just going to pull it through. Okay, as I'm pulling, it's really important to do it very slowly and not pull too tight. I want it to gently rest at the top of the eye. So I'm using my thumb to kind of make it go where I want. And if I pull it too tight, it's going to end up tucking underneath the eye. So where it is now is a pretty good spot. Okay, I want to make it to the other side, to the other eye. So where this is coming up now, I'm just going to go back down in the same place. And over here to the corner of the eye. Okay, again, don't pull too tight. We don't want to mess up our first eye. See how he just disappeared out the top? Okay, same thing. This time I'm going to go to the other corner of the eye, and this time my goal is to come up right where my tail is here. Perfect. Okay, he looks good. Or she. Leave a couple inches. Go ahead and tie that. Just tying it once is plenty. And then use your crochet hook to make it disappear. Actually, those are probably too long, so even shorter than that. I kind of twist it to make sure it just gets dropped on the inside as I'm coming out. There, it disappeared, and it still looks cute. All right, now the white part. If you are doing snow, the white Kawaii Kitty, it's not really necessary. It won't really show. But if you're doing cinnamon, our brown Kawaii Kitty, doing a little white underneath just adds a little cute texture to the eye. Or if you're doing mouse, we can do that too. So we do the exact same thing as we did for the eyelashes, only we do it with white and at the bottom of the eye. If you're not going to do it, go ahead and fast forward to the next part. But if you are going to do it, follow along with me. Tail. All right, look at our progress so far. Look how cute it's turning out. So let's go ahead and do the ears next. So the ears, remember we got a little bit of a point. Sometimes I change them around, kind of deciding which way looks best to me. That looks pretty good like that. Or like that. And just like the feet, we're going to go ahead and thread that tail on our yarn needle this time. And just like the feet where we did the finish and how it kind of bumps up, we're going to go into the next stitch after the finish. just to kind of even that out. Now usually with the finishes, I make that one of the edges of my ear. So I'm going to kind of squish it just like that, or flatten it. That helps make the pointed part. Okay, do I want him like this or like this? I think like this is better. All right, so you can kind of pin it in place or just hold it in place. I would do both. And just like we did with the feet, we're gonna go down into the body around where the ear is at. There, what do you think? Okay, then we take our next ear, go ahead and thread that through. Make sure, like we did before, where the finish is at. In the next stitch, I'm going to thread it so it evens out a little bit. And then squish the ear so you get kind of that point. We're going to sew him on right about here. So go ahead and sew on that second ear just like you did the first, and then meet me back here once that's sewn on. Okay, make sure you're happy with where the ears are placed. Remember, you can always undo it if you're not. And then just like we did with the feet, you're going to pull that tight and snap. Pull that tight. Oh, don't cut the ear and snip. All right, look, our Kawaii Kitty is looking great. Last thing we need to do is do the tail. Okay, the tail goes onto the back and is sticking up. So it will be just like this. And we're gonna sew it just like we did the feet and the ears. So we thread that tail through where that finished part sticks up, kind of pull that in just like that. Now the placement will, the direction, I guess I should say. Notice how this part is a little higher than this part. So if I put that, the higher part towards the ears, it'll lean back a little bit. If I did it the other way, it would be more up and down. I usually do it so it leans back just a little bit like this, okay? All right, and then same like the others, pull it tight and snip it. And our Kawaii Kitty is done. Awesome job. Don't forget to send me pictures of your finished product. Let me know how you did or if you had any questions. And let me also know what you would like to work on next.